Alright, we're rolling, we're rolling. Hello, welcome to my presentation on the principles and elements of design. I'm gonna go through some of the basic principles and elements of design with you guys, and we're gonna have a lot of fun doing so. So, we're gonna get into it. So, our first topic is the principles of design. Now, the of design are a series of methods that explain how design elements are applied. You can't ever use the elements of design without knowing the principles of design, and vice versa. So, the principles of design, it's like your tactic book. It's your playbook on how to make good, pretty art designs. So, our first tactic in the playbook here is balance. Now, balance is the distribution of objects, colors, texture, and space within a piece. So, you can see how these series of circles here, they're balanced in a sense. There's three types of balance. There's symmetrical balance, asymmetrical balance, and radial balance. Now, a good example of radial balance, if we come over here, we take the stick of truth and we light this bad boy up and we hide. Now that's radial balance right there. That's radial balance. A firework with its distribution of color and light in a space known as the sky. It's balance, radial balance. Our next principle here is emphasis. Now, emphasis is part of a design that catches a viewer's attention. Now, this example should be very straightforward. The big, bold, red text draws the eyes in, it draws your attention. It's, hey, look at me, I'm important. That's the whole point of emphasis. You emphasize different objects in a piece in order to draw eyes in, to make your eyes look at a specific point and work their way out. It not even work their way out. It just draws you in. It draws you in, grabs your attention. So our next principle here is movement. Now, movement is the path a viewer's eyes take through a design. Movement can help emphasize or create the illusion of motion. Now, there's this little illusion that I found that you can see how with the lines and the colors, it gives the piece a look. It looks like it's swirling. It looks like it's moving around. As you can see, stare at it hard enough and you can see it. Now, another more simple piece of movement would be like a cycle chart. In this case, this is my drawing a car cycle chart. So we start with draw a car, then we go to my best work yet, then corny is brutally honest, I cry for about 6 hours, and then I draw a car again. And the cycle repeats, and you can see how the arrows, they draw your eyes around to make sure you're going in the right direction. Now, our next principle is patterns as well as repetition. These are two principles. I combine them into one because they're very similar. Now, a pattern is a repeating element that is used throughout a design. See if we can point out the pattern here in this slide. Now, repetition works with patterns to make a design appear active. Now, if we turn around and look at this piece that I've found here, you can see how the repetition of colors, shapes, and objects in the space, it makes it look active. Now, next principle is proportion. Now, everybody knows that I struggle with proportion, especially when it comes to drawing cars. Proportion is the relative size and scale of elements in a design. Now, my example here is I took some pictures of a Porsche, okay? Now, the one on the far right is too small. It's not in good proportion compared to the road and the trees in the background. The one closest to me is too big. The car is too big for the road. I actually had to stand back to get a picture of it. and it looks huge. It's almost taller than the trees in the background. Now, the one in the middle is just right. It's perfect to scale proportionate size of a 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. Now, proportion is probably one of the biggest things that a lot of product designers, industrial designers stress the most. Because if it don't look right, it ain't right. Now, our next principle here is rhythm. Rhythm occurs when one or more... Rhythm occurs when one or more elements of a design are used repeatedly to create a feeling of organized movement, visual tempo. Now, where's my rhythm example? Well, let's go for a walk. So, let's look at the bowling alley here, the masking unit, what covers the machines. As you can see how the rhythm of this masking unit, it gives the illusion that the bowling ball is knocking over some bowling pins and the bowling pins are going everywhere. That is rhythm right there. It helps with that illusion. It gives you all the things that make a piece great. Now, there we go. Now, our next principle we have here is variety. Variety is the use of several elements to hold attention and guide a viewer's eye through a design. Now we're going to zoom in here on this. So this next to me here, this guy, that's the map of the Rec Room campus. I tried to do air quotes, not a good idea. So the Rec Room campus is, it's what this game I'm in is called Rec Room. The campus is basically like the lore side of it. Now, I think my mirror is misconstrued. Hold on. Yep, it is. So, you can see a variety of different things like dotted lines, the compass rose, the buildings, the logo. The variety in objects and elements, it contributes and it guides your eyes through the design. It's great. It's lovely. So, we're going to get into the unity aspect of principles and elements in design. Unity is the sense of harmony between all parts of a design. Now, my example here is you can see the one on the far right, no unity except the color. Color, shape, size, all parts of unity. Unity in color, but no unity in size, scale, proportion, and distribution. Whereas the one closest to me has good size, scale, proportion, color, distribution. This is unity right here. This is like the unity. It's great. Now, next is the elements of design. What I've just gone over are ways you can put these elements that I'm about to discuss into effect, in a sense. So, the elements of design are what we go I can't talk. Okay, the elements of design are fundamental aspects of any visual piece. You cannot use the principles of design without first knowing the elements of design. Our first element is the point. The simplest element and the very building block of all things design starts with the point. Point could be anything. It could be physical, it could be implied. It's just a simple little speck like that. It's anything that could be important. It starts any entity, shape, object, whatever. Starts with a point. Could be a focus point on a piece. It could be a physical point. It could be an implied point. The point is the building block. Building off of the point, we have the line. The line is a segment that connects two points or a path of a moving point. A line is essentially point A to point B. It can be geometric, it can be organic, it could be implied. The line is the second simplest, most important piece in design. It can be different thicknesses, there can be different boldnesses. It's everywhere. Lines are everywhere. Next, we have shape and form. These are two different elements that I combined into one slide because they're very similar. Now, a shape is a two-dimensional object that can be geometric or organic, like this square, or this circle, or this triangle, or this pentagon, or this blob that I drew. These are shapes. They're two-dimensional and they exist on the slide. Now, form is any three-dimensional shape that has height, width, and depth. If we turn over here, these are some forms. These are three-dimensional objects that exist in a three-dimensional plane, like this cube, sphere, pyramid, something, hedron, and this blob that I drew. There's geometrical, organic, there's all the things. I forgot what I was going to say. Important. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, they're very important, very important. Now our next element is color. Color is the perception of light reflected from the surface or a shape or form. Wait, what? No. From the surface of a shape or form. Now, my example here, I've got the color wheels, the color theory wheels here, where color theory is another thing that I'm sure Corny will talk about, which is very important in design as well. But color is an element that it got whole study classes on this thing, because this thing is so complex. But color is very important. If it's a piece that's in color, the choices and the blending and the agreement of colors, it can make or break a piece. Now, our next element here is value. Value is the degree of lightness or darkness in a color. Contrast in value can separate objects on a piece, where, as you can see, we've got gradients here that go in lightness, darkness, and saturation, which is part of value, and a little bit of hue. And as you can see, so let's look at the sky here. The sky is blue, it's great, the sun's setting. Now, you can see how the dark building, it creates contrast with the bright blue sky. But let's make the sky dark. There's less contrast. You can't really see where the building ends and the sky starts. So value is important. It makes things contrast. It helps things blend, stick out, blend in. Where, see, the buildings blend in, they stick out. Perfect. Now our next element is texture. Texture is the surface quality of an object that can be seen or felt. Now, I've got 4 different textures here that exist in the Rec Room Maker pen. We got the textures, all sorts of different textures here. Now, this is a dirt texture. It's yellow. It gives, I don't know why I made it yellow. This is a sparkly vinyl, in quotes, a rock, and plywood. You can see how, from a distance, they look textured. They give depth. They give illusion. It looks like it's important. Now, not final, I don't think. Wait, hold on. Yes, final. The final element here is space. Space is the area between, around, and within objects in a design. Now, what I'm standing in right now is occupied positive space. There is, I exist in a space, other objects exist in a space. This space is very occupied by a bowling alley, a beautiful city skyline, and this nice fireplace. Now, what does negative space look like? Well, this is what negative space looks like. This is the void. There is no objects in this space whatsoever. It is just pure, bright, white nothingness. This is negative, unoccupied space. Now, if we go back here, this is back in occupied space. I'd like to thank you for your time in listening to me rant about the principles and elements of design. I did everything here. Sources, I went on the websites. I can send Corny the links, which I probably have done so by now. From the Berkeley Library at the University of California, they had a great website explaining and defining different principles and elements, as well as Arizona State University. They went more in depth on the elements, so I could give you the proper examples to show you what all these elements are. So that is all I have. Thank you and happy finals.